for people who are just joining us, maybe joined us not at the beginning, just like to share again, this is a special track session that put together by a group of colleagues from XJTLU. And just now, Dr. Bixin have delivered the second presentation, talked about the concept of learning mall and what the university is trying to push forward with additional practices in innovative technology. And then the third presentation, I'm very happy to introduce two other colleagues of mine. One is Mr. Roland Sherwood with his colleague, Ms. Lina. And both of them are actually very much connected to the second presenter's content learning mall. But I would like to frame them as the backbone of the learning mall, where the technology and the programming and all the tech quickies, techie stuff that takes place. So let's welcome the third presentation and presenters, Roland and Lina. And I just want to also quickly introduce that both of them are actually coming from what we call the CET, Center for Educational Technology. And so Roland and Lina, are you guys online? Over to you. Welcome, and I look forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you to our previous presenters as well. Lina, I wonder if you could share your desktop and the slides. Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for being here and for participating in our presentation today. We will be building on some of the concepts and ideas that have been discussed in those previous presentations, and also talking a little bit about the broader context of using educational technology within the context that we operate in, which obviously is mainland China, and particularly how technology enhanced learning within Chinese universities, including XJTLU, has changed and developed again quite rapidly in the course of the last 12 to 18 months or so. So Lina, if we could move on to our first slide. Thank you very much, and just a very quick welcome to all of you who might be again participating in this session, wherever you are and whatever time it might be in your particular location. Very quickly, as Sarah was very kind to mention, my name is Roland Sherwood. I'm the head of the Center for Educational Technology, or CET, and I'm joined today by my colleague.
Hello, everyone. I'm Na Li. I'm the Senior Educational Technologist within the Center for Educational Technology.
Thank you, Lina. And if you'd like to get in touch with either myself or Lina after the presentation, please feel free to drop us an email via the details that you see here. We'd be very happy to hear from you and answer any queries that you might have. If we move on now into the intentions for our presentation this evening. Very quickly, we'll just talk a little bit about who we are. I know that this was covered in a previous presentation, but just in case you're joining us now, we thought it might be useful to provide a very quick overview of XJTLU. We'll also, of course, be talking about technology enhanced learning specifically at XJTLU, again, over the course of the last 12 to 18 months. We'll also be talking about some survey results around Chinese universities, public universities, that shared data and information relating to their technology enhanced learning practices. Of course, in hopefully a post-COVID-19 situation, we'll be talking a little bit about how things stand now and how we are positioned to move into the future as well. And then finally, if we have a little bit of time at the end, we'd be very happy to answer any questions that you might have for us. So very quickly, in terms of XJTLU, this is who we are. We are, again, founded in 2006. We're a fairly young institution. I believe that we are still the largest joint venture university in China. And again, that's a partnership between Shenzhen University and the University of Liverpool. This year, we have about 18,000 students and 1,000 plus members of academic staff. So it's a very busy, lively campus that we occupy at the moment. And then Everything that we teach at XJTLU, or pretty much everything we teach, is delivered in English. We are an EMI institution. And as previously mentioned in those earlier presentations, we do have a very strong focus on using technology to support learning and teaching within our institution in a wide variety of ways, and we'll talk about some of those in a moment's time. This is a photo of our campus here in Suzhou. It's a lovely campus. If you're ever in Suzhou and would like to stop by, please do. So, talking more specifically about technology enhanced learning at XJTLU, there's a few things to sort of cover here. First of all, I'm sure, like many of you who might be listening to this presentation, since our founding and right through to where we are today, we're probably doing many things that you're doing as well, which encompasses blended learning, some elements of online learning. We have a strong presence for using technology in the classroom environment. So, very sort of traditional things in a Western based context. The core of our technological delivery within the university is our learning management system, or virtual learning environment. And at the time of the COVID pandemic beginning, we were using, or our platform was called ICE. And it's a platform based on Moodle, for those of you who might be familiar with that software. And basically all of our delivery, all of our modules have a presence on the learning management system, and to some degree are delivered via the use of that platform. We have a sort of more detailed overview of other technologies that play a role in our academic delivery within the institution. You can see some of those things here. I won't go into all of the specifics, but again, at the heart of that, you can see our learning management system, as it was called then, which is ICE. Moving on to what you're seeing here, which is other ways that teachers are using technology across the university. It might be, for example, again, in classroom-based delivery with people doing things with touchscreen devices. We also have facilities, studio spaces that allow teachers to come in, record content, multimedia content for use in alternative approaches to delivery, possibly flipped classroom delivery, for example, or fully online delivery. So we have teachers doing a range of things with technology in all aspects of our academic delivery here. In terms of how we make that possible and how we support all of that to take place, myself and my colleagues within the Centre for Educational Technology are very heavily involved in training and supporting colleagues right across the university. So that takes the form of, as you can see here, sort of dedicated training sessions, as well as responding to queries, user support tickets, consultation, other training opportunities and special events that we provide to our staff as well. And you can see here some of the members of that team who make all of that work possible. I'll hand over now to my colleague Lena, who's going to talk a little bit more about what's happening with educational technology in Chinese public universities. Thanks, Lena.
Thank you, Roland. And according to the recent literature, we find that the digital transformation worldwide is quite slow, unfortunately. And most of the universities are very cautious about the technological changes and the potential educational transformation. So in order to have a better understanding of the situation in the other Chinese universities, we conducted an online survey in 2019 before the pandemic. Luckily, we got 235 teachers responded. They are from 10 different Chinese public universities. I will quickly show you some of the interesting results from the survey. First of all, as you can see from this slide, we asked whether these teachers, they have free access to their campus network. You can see 61% of the teachers, they do have the free access to the network, which is quite good. However, only 25% of the teachers, they have a centralized learning management system to support their teaching and learning practice. And for those who don't have a centralized learning management system, only 23% of these teachers, they will personally use some technologies in their class. Moreover, we can see only 7% of the teachers, they have institutional technology enhanced learning framework or guidelines to facilitate their learning and teaching practice. And similarly, you can see from here, only 9% of the teachers, they have full-time staff in their universities to support and provide trainings for their use of the technology in the classroom. So this is the overall situation of the 10 Chinese public universities before the pandemic. And as Gilly Salmon has highlighted in her publication before the pandemic, the students actually are looking forward to the reshape of the higher education. But how are the universities going to respond to the students' expectation? As we all know, then the pandemic hit China in November of 2019, and the lockdown forced the campus to be closed. For universities with international staff and the students, we are facing challenges like cover all the teaching and learning needs from different time zones. And also, here is an increasing concern about the students' learning effectiveness and their satisfaction during the pandemic. So we consulted some recent literature during the post-pandemic. As you can see from this screenshot, the Chinese government initiated an emergency policy, which is suspending classes without stopping learning. However, the educators exposed the weakness and the challenges for those teachers facing during this rapid transition from face-to-face to fully online. And we can see the research shows students' anxieties are increasing over the time for the Chinese university students. In this article, the top-tier public Chinese university, Peking University, has shared their practice of online education during the pandemic. They have offered about 100 online courses, but still with some problems and challenges. For example, the low proportion of online courses and the lack of student engagement. This news article demonstrated the online education practice from 2 transnational universities. They are the Duke Kunshan University and the Xi'an Jiaotong Liverpool University. So during the period from February 24th to October 31st in 2020, XJTLU has successfully conducted over 20,000 online synchronous classes based on the technology named Big Blue Button. And also we have successfully supported over 500 online exams based on the Moodle online quiz and online assignment, which my boss Roland will brief you more details. I will hand it over back to Roland. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lena. Yeah, so I think what you're hearing there really is a summary of how things stood before the pandemic hit us in our context in China, both for XJTLU, but again also for those public Chinese universities as well. In the case of XJTLU, again, we were reasonably well prepared in terms of the technological infrastructure that we had available but not by any means completely where we would like to have been had we known that situation was going to arise. So we did have to make some very rapid changes and implement some quite significant developments in terms of our infrastructure to make it possible for our teachers and students to undertake fully online learning and teaching at the height of the pandemic, and also, of course, beyond that. One of those things, as Lena has mentioned, is a product called Big Blue Button, which is our web conferencing solution. So at the start of the pandemic, for example, we had one Big Blue Button server within our infrastructure, and that server could probably support about 100 to 150 people in total. Now, again, we have 18,000 students on campus currently. So we had to very, very quickly and dramatically increase our architecture around the use of that technology. And if you can see on the following slide, you'll see what we actually had to build to make that possible. Lena, thanks very much. So yeah, I mean, without going into the technical details here, you can see that we developed very rapidly this much more sophisticated and advanced architecture around that particular technology. And now, and certainly again at the height of the pandemic, we were able to allow thousands and thousands of our students and staff to engage in web conferencing activities to support their learning and teaching simultaneously. So that was one very major development that we had to undertake at the height of the pandemic. There are other things that we had to do as well, besides that, and as has been mentioned in previous presentations, after the height of the pandemic and when people were back on campus, or at least when some students and staff were back on campus, we then moved into a phase of high flex based learning and teaching, where again, some teachers were present on campus and could make use of classrooms to deliver their teaching, but many of their students, unfortunately, were still not back on campus and didn't have the ability to be there in person. So we had to outfit all of our classrooms with the necessary equipment to make high flex learning and teaching delivery possible as well, to make it, again, possible for students in class and students online to receive the same instruction simultaneously. A lot of work, again, went into implementing and outfitting those classrooms. More than about 150 classrooms, I think, in total. Otherwise, and again, talking about Big Blue Button, you know, we had to obviously provide a lot of support to our teachers in particular around using that technology. And what you're seeing here as an example is the training program that we developed, again, very, very quickly to deliver to that 1,000 members of academic staff, introducing them to features of the platform, familiarizing them with how to use it effectively in their practice, answering questions, providing feedback and suggestions. We had to do that in a very, very short amount of time to a very large number of people. You're seeing a slide here, for example, from one of those training sessions, again, where we would cover some of those basic information that people might need to know about how to use that technology. Besides that, and besides those particular technologies, we built a teacher's toolkit, essentially, of documents, user guides, tips, best practice suggestions relating to the use of a wide range of technologies and activity types that teachers might want to consider implementing and making use of as part of their online learning and teaching delivery. Again, Big Blue Button in particular was a focus of that work, and we also wanted to make it possible for teachers to provide for teachers to ask questions online so that we could respond to them in real time as much as possible. And we focused on building a particular area for that technology as well. Besides all of that, at the same time, we recognized the need to expand dramatically our general and broader user guide and documentation resource. And because of that, we built what you're seeing here, which is a dedicated online platform containing hundreds and hundreds of those user guides and other resources for teachers to be able to search and browse through and hopefully find the answers that they need to support them in their work. Again, just another example of one of those articles, again about Big Blue Button here, but again, these are articles that were built very, very quickly, and we had to cover a lot of ground and a lot of features in that time. One of the very good things about all of that work, anecdotally, is how the fruits of that labor have transferred across and beyond the pandemic period itself. So, for example, our assessments, which is something we haven't talked significantly about this evening, but besides, of course, delivering online learning and teaching, we had to deliver assessments in a very large way in a very short amount of time as well. And one of the things that we've observed since the pandemic has decreased in our particular context is that many teachers and students are continuing to undertake their assessments online, even though they are here on the campus and have access to dedicated assessment facilities. So that's been a very encouraging part of this process for myself and my team to see as well. And what you're seeing here finally is a sort of picture of how things stand currently in terms of our infrastructure. And again, this is a little bit more expanded from the one that we showed you a short while ago. We've added some technologies, we've changed some things, and we've changed the name of our learning management system again to be the Learning Mall as well. So we now have I think, quite a robust technological infrastructure within the institution to hopefully see us through the remainder of the pandemic, and also, of course, beyond that, and looking much further ahead to the opening of our Taishan campus, and also our much broader efforts to support online learning and teaching via the Learning Mall to external audiences as well. This is a screenshot very quickly of how the Learning Mall looks today for those people using it. And again, just to reiterate the fact that another sort of anecdotal side effect, I suppose, of this process has been that many teachers are now much more actively engaged in producing their own content, their own videos, their own audio content for use in their learning and teaching activities. Before the pandemic, we had a few teachers who wanted to do that, and some very motivated people were undertaking those kinds of activities themselves. But we've seen a very significant upsurge in that particular kind of activity as a result of the pandemic. And again, that's very encouraging for myself and my team. And I think here in summary is some of the things that we've just touched on, which again, in terms of our own particular context prior to COVID-19, as you can see, involved some particular technologies and some particular approaches to using those technologies and supporting those technologies, versus how those Chinese public universities were dealing with these same kinds of issues as well. Lena, I don't know if you'd like to quickly summarize the post-COVID-19 situation for us.
Okay, thank you, Roland. Yeah, in the post-COVID-19, although most of the Chinese public universities were forced to transform from the traditional version to a fully online education, but we all know there are various challenges, things like what kind of technology to use, and the extremely added extra workload for both of the teachers and the administrative staff and the leadership team, and also how to provide a better learning experience and the better learning environment for the students during such a quick change. So comparing to the most of the situation in China, XJTLU, based on the previous experience and the fundamental development of the technology enhanced learning, we did a quick transition in terms of the infrastructure development, the pedagogical transition, the reframe of the curriculum to better facilitate the online education needs, and also the sufficient teaching and learning practice support. So in that way, the university has better digital resilience it's not something that we have it in a second. It is based on the past 15 years development. And also, as Roland has mentioned, many of our staff members, they started to like the way to create their own multimedia content and deliver the online education and online exam. Even the campus has been reopened again. So I think that's a quick summary of the post-pandemic. Yeah, Roland, do you want to end our presentation? I think that's all for the presentation. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lena. And yeah, we'll leave it there. Again, I hope that this has been useful for you, and thank you very much for watching.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Roland and Lena. I think there are some questions that by our audience. There are 4 questions. Maybe we can try to answer them from Trevor. Of the first question is, of the ETL staff in uni, are they IT staff or trained instructional designers? I think maybe one of you, Roland or Lena, you can answer this question.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I can answer that for you. Yes, the colleagues within my team, the Center for Educational Technology, are all trained educational technology practitioners. So whether they're instructional designers, educational technologists, or specialists in other fields, we all have a background in this particular area.
Mm-hmm. Yes, great, thank you. And I think the second question, maybe for all of us, we can just chip in. For the online exam, do you do how? I guess it's how do you deal with the academic honesty? Maybe you can touch on the feature in Learning Mall, such as turning in and some other functions that help teachers to ensure honesty and avoid any academic integrity issues.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. We use Turnitin for a variety of purposes, including summative final assessments for our students. In terms of online exams specifically, we of course undertake online invigilation around the students' participation in those exams. So it's not perfect by any means, but we do implement measures to make sure that students are not doing things that they shouldn't be doing during those online exam activities. And in general, we of course are always actively encouraging teachers to think about ways to develop assessments that are challenging to students and can't easily be completed via copying answers from somewhere on the internet or consulting with other people. So there's a variety of methods that we try to employ to increase the safety and the security of our assessments.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the follow-up question on that is, for the online exam, I guess it's applying for the academic staff. If they, do they do higher order thinking skills, or is there still a lot of memorization? I think you can answer, and then maybe I will also provide some insights as a member of the academic staff. Go ahead.
Sure. I mean, I can only really answer from some of the things that I see from my perspective, but I think it's a real mixture. I think we do have some academics who are sort of in a more traditional mindset, I suppose, and are focused on things relating to memorization. But equally and increasingly, I think we have a lot of academics who are definitely exploring and engaging with more sophisticated and perhaps more modern approaches to undertaking assessments as well.
Mm-hmm. And for that, I might just do a quick introduction of tomorrow's special track presentations. We have 4 presentations, and it's going to focus more on the practice side of teaching and learning. So if you're interested, you can join us tomorrow around the same time. And I believe there'll be 3 sessions, 3 presentations, particularly focused on what we do in terms of teaching and learning, and the one presentation delivered in regards to how we train our professional staff in education development or professional development. So maybe more can come out of that session as well. And the last question from the audience is all from actually the same person. Thank you for asking these wonderful questions. The last question is how did you conduct most of your classes, synchronized or asynchronized? And did you have any effect on anxiety, student commitment, development of communities of inquiry? Interesting. So Roland or Lina, what do you have to say on this?
Lina, please.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Trevor, for the question. Yeah, I think for the synchronous and the asynchronous different online education practice, our teachers, they made great efforts. For example, they produce multimedia pre-recordings for asynchronous practice, and also they apply the flipped classroom design for their online instructional instructions. And for the synchronous online delivery, as Roland introduced, we use the Big Blue Button, which can support all of the traditional face-to-face classes. So we can support them to easily convert to the fully online for the whole campus. So I think, yeah, for the second question about the student commitment or anxiety, I think we do have the same cohort of the students, whatever learning environment or education practice they are engaging with. It's a quick transition and a big challenge for everyone, and they are also suffering the society crisis. So I think the most important is the universities are always considering about students' experience and trying to put the students' feelings at the center when we considering about the strategy, the guidelines, and the things that we can try our best to help them. Yeah, that's my opinion. Yeah, how about you, Roland? Do you have any thoughts on it?
Well, no, thanks, Lina. I would just add to that, again, one of the very interesting things we observed, again, throughout the last sort of 12 to 18 months was the change in attitudes amongst many of our students with regards to engaging in online learning and teaching. At the start of the pandemic situation, we know that many students, based on the feedback that they provided to the university, many of them actually were very cautious and hesitant about engaging in online learning. And I think some of them particularly struggled to see the value in comparison with face-to-face experiences. But definitely over the course of the last 12 months, as students began to engage actively with online learning and teaching, we've seen a very noticeable and measurable shift in attitudes on their part. And we now have many students who are responding to surveys and other data collection methods that we employ, who are telling us they actually prefer to learn online rather than be there in the classroom. So, you know, it's a very interesting thing, and I think it's very encouraging in some ways. So that's another part of this picture as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'll definitely agree with what Lina and Roland just shared. So in tomorrow's presentation, a colleague and I will actually talk about a brand new postgraduate program we launched just this past year, and how the students, you know, are expecting something while experiencing something else. So there's definitely, I think, this anxiety and the commitment issues from students, and I think that's across the board in any university who are trying to do innovative practice. So we constantly deal with the challenges, but we're seeing the change and rewards and the student development from that as well. So more on that tomorrow. And And I'm very mindful of the time, and I just want to thank all my colleagues today for delivering 3 wonderful presentations. And I also noticed at least the 3 of them are working from office at this late night. We're in Beijing time zone, so this is coming up midnight for us, or maybe even past midnight. So thank you, Roland, Lina, Bijin, and Store for your wonderful contribution and your presentation. And I hope the audience enjoyed it, and I will see the audience tomorrow in our second special track presentations. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It's been enjoyable. It's been very good.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see everyone on our next streams and for your next presentations.